Hello everyone and welcome back to Capacity TV. We're here at Datacloud Global Congress 2026. I'm Amber Jackson and I'm delighted to be joined by Bertrand Rotagnon, Exec Director for Data Centers in Europe at Carrier. Bertrand, lovely to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So obviously a lot of conversations that have been happening about the European data center market. It's expanding rapidly, but obviously power, water and regulation are struggling at the same time. At a board level, which constraint do you think is shaping decisions the most?
So that's a very interesting question, and it's always tough to do the right strategic trade-off when we talk about our strategy to support our clients. We are a end-to-end, a full thermal solution provider, which means that, of course, we tend and try to design the best cooling solution for our clients. And when we talk about thermal solution, we don't talk only about chillers. We do, of course, chillers, but we do all the air side of the data center with computer room air handling units and fan walls. We do also the CDUs now, and then we do the controls. And of course, cradle to grave means that we will be there with our clients when we deliver the job, including commissioning, and then doing all the aftermarket later on the life cycle of the installation in the data center. So we make a lot of investment, especially in R&D right now. And we have an amazing R&D team based out of France. We have 150 engineers in our site in France, and we are investing therefore in our team, in our people, but we're also investing in our infrastructure. So we have investment towards the operations capacity, right? More lines of production in Montluel, in France, next to Lyon, which is our main factory for chillers. But then we have also invested $15 million last year in a new lab test facility. Because when you propose to your clients a certain efficiency for them to have the right cooling capacity in their data center, you need to be sure that what you promise is what you deliver. And then we have an amazing data center lab test in Lyon, where we can test full capacity up to 6 megawatts from minus 20 degrees up to 60 degrees, right? And then we can guarantee the results of the solution we are co-designing with the clients, so they are sure to get what we propose them when we deliver on site. So we help them to de-risk their project because, again, we have no difference between the specification we write with them and the results on site when we do the startup of our chillers. So that's in a nutshell what we do mainly with our investment, but it's extremely dynamic. The market is extremely dynamic. Historically, we are working with the main market for data center in Europe, which is London, Frankfurt, Paris, Amsterdam, and Dublin. But now we see the market shifting to two different regions. The Nordics, right? And for evident reason, in the Nordics, you have cooling efficiency, it's called, but you have also a lot of renewable energy, stability in the green, and land available. So that's attracting a lot of investment right now from the data center developer. And this is challenging us to be the best in cold temperature. So we need to master the free cooling capabilities of our solutions for our clients. And then on the opposite, on the contrary, you have now a new pole for data center, which is South Europe. That's a bit counterintuitive because you will have high temperature, especially in the summer. I could take the example of Spain attracting a lot of hyperscaler investment at the minute. And that's for, again, nice evident reason. The government is supportive and delivering construction permit to the data center developer, but they have also renewable energy in which they are investing at the minute, a stable grid, and they have a new sub-cable station that they've built last year in Barcelona, right? So, and then the challenge for us is again to develop the right cooling solution in a high ambient temperature, because you can reach up to 55 degrees on site, and then we need to be sure that we're gonna deliver the right capacity without derating the cooling performance of our chiller, for instance. So it's where we are, it's what is driving our investment right now in terms of research and development, in terms of new products, to support our clients cradle to grave. And then the biggest investment as well that we are doing in parallel, I was talking about our engineers, it's our delivery team. Project execution, commissioning supervision, and at the end, the capacity to do the perfect maintenance on site with the right base of service technicians. And that's what is driving now our investment, whether we are reinforcing our team or training our own people.
Fantastic. And can I ask you about cooling as well? Because obviously that's such a hot topic, well, cool topic maybe, as the case may be, in the industry at the moment. To what extent is that now a strategic investment decision rather than a technical choice? You know, is it changing the way that operators are designing?
Absolutely. Well, when you talk about a data center, you talk, of course, about servers and GPUs. And those servers and GPUs are producing heat. And so if you don't have the right cooling strategy and the right cooling solution, well, you won't be able to operate your data center at the right level. So it is critical, right? That's why we are mission critical in the data center industry. And when you think about the budget and the capex a data center developer has to spend on the cooling package, we are talking about like towards 20 to 30%, right? So after you buy your IT system, your electrical system, it is the cooling system that kick in terms of magnitude of investment that you need to spend for your data center. And then when we talk about AI, it's driving even more capabilities on the cooling side, because we see that the racks are being densified right now because of the AI demand. And where in the industry you had 20 kilowatt racks, classic, and the data center will be 20 to 40 megawatts. Now it's pushing to bigger size, 100 kilowatt per rack, and the size of a data center is more in the magnitude of 500 megawatt to a gigawatt, right? So therefore, we have to adapt our solution to that. We need to provide a new design with the clients so they can deliver better, more efficient cooling capacity and with bigger, again, size of the equipment to deliver, again, to address this magnitude of data center.
Can I ask you a little bit more about what you were saying about AI there? Is it simply increasing demand for cooling, or is it changing how data centers need to be designed, operated, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So we just spoke about like the fact that the AI data center, or we call it as well the AI factories, are now being a bigger project when it comes to the object, the data center. But it's also what we see is that the developer and the investor are driving a bigger pipe. And for them, it is not only the capacity that they need to deliver to the market, it's also the pace at which they need to build the infrastructure. And so at Carrier, we can help them design better solutions that we could call modular solution. And so we are nonetheless developing a better and bigger in terms of capacity and faster in terms of delivery chiller. That's what we're trying to provide to them. So we go from a 2 megawatt free cooling chiller to a 3 megawatt free cooling chiller. with a PUE in terms of power utility effectiveness, power usage effectiveness at 1.1, right? And reducing the footprint as well. And to help our clients to install faster and build at pace, we mount the chiller on a chassis, on a skid, in which we install different equipment, so that the chiller, when it arrives on site, it is plug and play. And this is saving a lot of time on the construction schedule of our clients, but also de-risking the commissioning process, because we can do commissioning L3 level at the factory and laboratory level. And that's reducing the commissioning time on site from a ratio from 10 to 2. So we save 80% of the commissioning time, which is again reducing the construction schedule, but also de-risking the commissioning process.
And let's maybe talk about energy for a minute, because obviously it's kind of subject to a lot of debate here at Cannes and then across the industry worldwide. We often hear about data centers as those major energy consumers. With that being said, do you see them becoming part of the energy system?
Absolutely. I would say that the first thing is that data center ideally would need to use renewable energy where it's possible, and I think we are taking the right direction in Europe. Also, with the new technology, we are all pushed to invest in research and development to have the most effective chiller, whether it is the input power, the PUE, and the cooling capacity that we deliver. But also, and I think the regulator has a role to play here, we can do heat use recovery, right? Because the servers are generating heat, and we could reuse this heat to re-inject it in the grid of a district heating via a heat pump, a high temperature heat pump that we can provide to generate and to be able to reuse that heat generated by the servers. So we are going in the right direction in France and in Germany, because today you have to, when you design your data center, you need to provide a 20% heat use recovery solution to have your construction permit approved. So France, Germany, 20%. In Scandinavia, they didn't pass a law on this, but they do it by habits, right? Because they have this culture of green energy, renewable energy, and they're conscious about the environment. So they do it without the need of a law. And the habit is to have also 20% of heat use recovery in the design of the data center. But in France now, they are studying even why not pushing it at 40%. And the reason is that, technically speaking, we could reuse 90% of the heat generated by the data center. So again, for an application where you have a local district heating, this is remarkable, because again, we know that we have to communicate properly with the population, with the citizens in Europe, to explain them that a data center can have good purpose as well for the community where the data center will be built in the neighborhood, right? Let's say.
So lots going on in the industry.
Lots going on, and more to come for sure.
Exciting. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for talking to me in the sunshine.
Thank you again for your time.